so pleased to have at this table Fred Rasamando. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to talk all about Horns for Kids.
Great.
That's hornsforkids.org.
Yes.
It's a charity.
We're a 501(c)
I love it.
Charity.
Let's talk about what is it?
Okay, Horns for Kids is a music charity that raises awareness about music education in the sense of getting instruments in the hands of students who can't normally afford them, or schools that have gone on hard times. And they
Which is a lot of schools these days.
Yeah, if you saw some of the application paragraphs we read are just, you know, we think of Connecticut as a pretty affluent state, but
there are pockets
there are pockets that
Yeah.
really need help.
How big a demand is there for horns? And what kind of instruments do you give out?
Okay, Horns for Kids is actually a generic term.
Okay.
It isn't just trumpets and trombones. It's horns in the sense of brass, trumpets, trombones, baritones, tubas, woodwinds, flutes, clarinets, alto sax, tenor sax, bass clarinets.
The gamut.
And then there's also strings, violin, viola, cello, and bass, guitars, acoustic and electric, percussion, drum sets, bongos, snare drum kits.
So you're saving the arts in Connecticut, basically.
Well,
You're starting with children.
Yeah.
And
we're like an ancillary charity. In other words, if a town loses their music department, you know, the board says, that's it, no more music.
And is that happening?
Oh yeah, it happens. Well, they cut back a teacher, and then instead
Sure.
of being this, it's a half-time, it's taking on a full-time, and they get frustrated and they leave. We can't come in as Horns for Kids and say, oh, we can cure your evils, you know. We have a limited budget. We have a nice budget, but it's limited based on who donates to us, you know, because that's all our money comes from donations.
Since 2003,
Yes.
you've been handing out almost 1,000 instruments.
Almost, yeah. This week we'll make almost 1,000.
In how many schools and how many towns?
Okay, schools is over 400, and towns, I forgot which.
More than 100, right?
Yeah, it's almost 200, I think.
Almost 200 towns.
Yes, we try to be so fair. By we, my partner is Lee Walkup, and Lee is from actually East Texas, and we met at Indiana University.
A music school.
Very difficult, and even in 1970, it was an expensive school, $65 a credit.
Well, there
know?
you go, see?
Yeah, but anyway, Lee and I met, and we hit it off as like musical brothers, and we started writing music, and at the end in December of '71, we finished our master's degrees. Mine was in conducting, and Lee's was in music education. Anyway, we said a tearful goodbye. My wife and I had just gotten married before we went out there. And we had a nice group small group of musicians, friends. But anyway, it was tearful. But he went back to Texas, and I came to back to Connecticut, because I'm from this
You grew up
Hamden,
in West Haven,
yeah.
right, and then Hamden, yep.
And I don't know, just the way things work out for my life. I got offered 2 jobs in January, one in Wallingford and one in Shelton. I thought, I can't take both jobs. So I called up Lee, and I said, Lee, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know, I think I'm leaving Texas. I'm thinking of going to Nashville or San Francisco, but I don't have a job. I said, I think I have your job for you.
Reunited in Connecticut,
Yeah,
right?
he drove up in his Volkswagen Squareback. I got him an apartment in Cheshire, and we started writing music. He took the Shelton job. I took the Wallingford job. We both started the same day, and 32 years later, we retired the same day.
And over those 32 years, you guys taught all over the place, all over the state.
Well, we brought our groups around, but for the most part, we took care of our town. Wallingford, for me, is like my adopted town. They just, I don't know what happened. I had such wonderful students and great success early on that, I don't know, they opened their doors to me, and whenever I needed a tenor sax or I needed a few extra dollars, the principal would find it for me. And I can't tell you how fortunate, I mean, that town is wonderful to me. And when I retired,
so many wonderful towns in this state. So where does Horns for Kids come? How do you get, you teach, you retire, somebody says to you, Horns for Kids was already underway, but you changed the mission statement. So how do you and your partner then end up back together again and get this thing going?
Well, we always wrote, and we opened our studio called Grace Recording in my home after I bought our house in Hamden. And we had to do that. I had 3 children, and I wouldn't have never seen the kids trying to teach all day and record all night. So we built the studio, and it was great. And we just progressively got bigger and bigger. We got some huge clients that paid for a lot of our equipment.
Name drop. Can you name drop?
Oh, well, should I say the U.S. federal government?
Okay, well, there you go. That's a big client.
Well, we always said crime pays. That's our motto. I won't go into details, but we did get a tremendous amount of work from the federal government. But we also got work from locals and people, and we saved every dime, kept increasing our equipment. And we just had a blast for 30, we still do it. Well, I moved in '74, so this is our 41st year. Anyway, in 2003, when we retired, Lee and I befriended a man by the name of Carl Gran, whose brother is George, worked here. Both sports guys. But Carl was into music pretty heavy, and he was the president or the leader of the Great Connecticut Jazz Festival at the time, which is an annual event held in Moodus, Connecticut most of the time on late July. And he said to us, "You guys are the perfect people. Why don't you take over Horns for Kids?" It had been started in the 90s by Joe Schiavone, I believe. We didn't know too much about it, other than that Carl wanted new direction. So we told him we would do it if we could change the mission statement to supporting music education in Connecticut schools, because it's okay to play Dixieland jazz, but you need a horn.
Right,
you know?
right. So all
it's the
types of
only
music.
thing. I was telling a teacher today, I handed him a clarinet, and I was telling him, I said, you know, to play a band instrument in school, it's the only subject I can think of in K to 12 that the school doesn't really provide instruments for you. I mean, if you go to English class, you don't pay for the English book.
Right.
You don't pay for the math book. Everything is paid for. But if you want to play in the band, you need an instrument. So you need a physical instrument. And there are many, many families that going through difficult times, they can't do it. Or they started, and then the father perhaps lost his job, or mother, and so they
kids
can't
have
keep
to
the
rent. And it's
That's
about,
how they
it's
start,
about
yeah.
$40 or so for 4 months?
Most of them, yeah, it's about $40 for the first 4.5 months, which if you start in September, it kind of takes you a little past Christmas. At that time, the student then decides with the parents, hopefully, that I want to continue on the flute, or it doesn't really hit me, Ma.
Right.
Let's turn it back in. So you turn it back in, you lose the $40. But if you want to keep it, then, of course, the monthly fees come in.
Sure.
Which go towards buying that flute. And because you're buying it over time, it's going to cost you more than if you just walked in the store and laid down $400 and bought a flute. Say.
What do you get by giving out 1,000 instruments to kids who probably wouldn't be able to afford it? What does that do for your soul?
Well, Lee and I are pretty passionate, and music, like a lot of teachers, music just moves us. And when we stopped teaching, I don't know, maybe Carl did the right thing and gave us this new passion to continue to help kids in a little different way. In fact, help kids more than our towns, our respective towns, instead of Lee just helping the Shelton kids, because Lee was like a troubadour in Shelton. Everybody knew Mr. Walkup, you know. And in Wallingford, everybody knew Mr. Rosamondo, you know. So, but then I thought, well, we could help kids in Milford, or we could help kids in West Hartford.
And now you're all over the state.
There's a lot of towns there.
So how do you get your instruments, and how many do you need? Because hopefully folks watching this will start to go, oh my gosh, I've got an instrument, because there's a demand.
Oh, yeah, I'll give you an example. In last October, we tend to have 2 giveaways a year, one in October and one in late April, early May, and that's where we are now. But if you go back to October, we had gathered 47 instruments. That's pretty good. If you figure about $350 an instrument, that's kind of an average. That's what it would cost. Like if this is a flute, rebuilt, $350. Trumpet, $350. Alto sax, $650, $700. So if you add it all up, multiply 992 times 350, and you're going to come up with about $350,000 of instruments that Lee and I have given away in the last 12 years.
That's pretty awesome.
It hit us the other day, you know. Well, this is pretty extensive. But anyway, we need instruments because last October, we always get applications. We put it on the internet. The internet is our friend.
So hornsforkids.org, they go there.
They go there, and we know that Lee has this wonderful, he built the website and everything. He has this wonderful thing called an email list, and all the music teachers try to get on that list because they'll know ahead of time what's coming up in October, for instance. And they'll see 4 saxophones, a bass clarinet, 6 trumpets, 5 trombones, whatever. Then they prioritize. They fill out a simple application. It takes 10 minutes. Who are you? You know, And we give them 5 choices. Prioritize. What's the first thing? Well, we really need a trombone for our school. We don't have any trombones. Okay, make that number 1. 2, 3, 4, 5. Then they email it to us.
And that's just one school. Now you've got all these other schools that need to be.
It's 392 of them.
How many instruments would you need per year to make everybody happy?
Comfortably,
Hundreds?
comfortably 100, 50 each time.
Okay.
But I'll to end of this, try to close that little story, is that in October we got 88 applications. We had 47 instruments. We had to say no to 41
that
teachers,
doesn't feel good,
which that part doesn't feel good to us. So anyway, after that, and this happens every year, but it was really exacerbated. So I said to Lee, come on, we got to find, so we pushed and pushed, and we got 62 instruments for this April. We still had 88 applications, but we did help 15 more people than we did back in October.
So anybody listening to this who has an instrument, they should
go to
get a
the
hold
website.
of you. Go to the website.
It's so easy. It says donate an instrument. You click on it, and you say, it goes to our info at hornsforkids.org, and Lee and I both get that email, and we'll see that Mrs. Jones from, you know, Milford, Connecticut, has got a flute that her daughter no longer plays. She's married now. It's still sitting in the closet, but it was a nice flute. Would you like it? So I'll contact her, and she'll either by phone or email. And if it's within a 20-mile radius, they either bring it to us or we'll kind of go get it.
But that's a lot of legwork. So then you have to have it cleaned.
Well, we get it, yeah, and then we have to analyze it. And we have to decide how good or how poor it is. Because, you know, somebody telling me, oh, I have this beautiful trumpet, you know, and then, you know, it's like...
You have to see it for yourself.
Yeah, we have to see it.
So
and brand names are important.
Not to interrupt, but you've got a partner in this. Ronald McDonald helps you.
Ronald McDonald, I tell you, I live a charmed life. And I was teaching at Quinnipiac, and I had a student in my class, a good student. And of all places, on Route 5 in North Haven, I went to a Tommy K's to rent a video one day, and there is this student. His name was Donald McKnight. He says, hey, Professor Rosamondo. I said, oh, Donald. He says, hey, I want you to meet my father. And I said, oh, okay. And his name was John. I said, oh, hello, Mr. McKnight. He goes, oh, Donald told me all about you. He says, you know, you run this thing, Horns for Kids, you know? And I said, yes, we do. He says, I saw an article in the paper. You gave something to a North Haven school. I said, yes, we did. I think we gave a trombone to a young boy. He looks at me, you know, he's a businessman. He looks at me and goes, where do you get your money? I said, well, we get donations, and people send us $100, or we get, you know. Did you ever write a grant? Well, we're thinking about it. This was 2005, maybe. And I said, he says, you know, we have grants at Ronald McDonald House Charities. Would be perfect for you guys. Oh, I'm going to send you the paperwork. So it's about 29 pages, but we filled it out, and they gave us $15,000.
Awesome.
You have to wait 2 years, then you can apply again.
So are you
every 2 years?
Every 2 years.
They give us between 10 and 15.
Let's look at some of the pictures that you have given
sure.
kids to. This is Clintonville. Tell me about this.
Oh yeah, these are these cute kids. It's in North Haven, and this teacher on the right is a girl that I went to school with at WestCon.
It all comes full circle.
I had no idea, because she did marry, and so she had a different name, you know. But yeah, they have this wonderful thing going at that time where they would play music for students coming into the building in the morning.
Oh, how neat is
So
that?
yeah, they got these bells, and that was great.
All right, this is Darien.
Yeah, this boy in the middle here is Jeffrey, and Jeffrey and his crew. This is a Tri-M chapter, which is a music chapter in high school, and they raise money and for worthy causes. And these kids all played. This boy played the trombone, and he called me up and said, "We'd like to run a donation drive." And for 2 years, they gave us around $1,500 and about a dozen or more instruments.
And that's how we help each other.
Yeah.
Here's Enfield.
Enfield, yeah, this is another good school system, and they needed, if I'm not mistaken, they needed a bass guitar, and we had
And
one.
you filled that
We
order.
filled, yep.
Tell me about Jason.
Jason, now this is a while back. Jason's married, has 7 kids now. But Jason's...
All through music,
Yeah,
right?
well, Jason had his, pardon me, I think it's bar mitzvah or bash mitzvah, and many students who do this are required to do something for charity.
Sure.
So he played the violin. So he told everybody who's going to come to his celebration to bring an instrument. So I met him and his mother on exit 41 on the Mara Parkway.
And they put a band together?
And
for
yeah,
the
they
bar
got,
mitzvah?
there was a keyboard, there was like 4 violins, a guitar, it was wonderful.
Jill and Carly? I
Yeah,
think?
this is about the same time. They're from
Okay.
Avon, Connecticut, and they both sang in the choir, and one of them, I believe, played in the band. And they just decided, and they brought us 23 instruments, including that drum set. I mean, it was... and
Community service.
Yeah, 2 parents came filled in their car. And that's how, we used to give away 10 or 12 instruments, you know, each time.
Sure.
But then it went to 20, 25. Well, now it's up to 50,
It's
60.
wonderful. All right, we have Meg.
Oh, this girl, what a wonderful child. She plays the flute. I think she's from Avon, and she found out about Horns for Kids. She gives lessons. These are her 2 students, the 2 little girls, and she took a portion of the money that she gets paid to give flute lessons and sent it to Horns for Kids.
That's awesome. All right, Meriden.
Yeah, Meriden. Well, they hadn't asked this very often. And finally, about a year and a half ago, the music teacher there who serviced several schools asked for 4 different schools that they needed this, and this. Well, for some reason, whatever they asked for, we had extra of. Now, we didn't give them all these instruments. This is a little deceiving, but we probably gave them about 10 or 11 instruments, and they were just thrilled. They wrote us a lovely thank you letter, and
And you're changing lives, Fred.
oh yeah, well these kids, I mean, talking about changed lives. See
Sam.
this kid here?
Yep.
Now I'm pretty sure his name is Sam, and Sam is from North Haven. Now he might have been the one we gave the trombone to in elementary school. This kid kept on playing all through high school and went to study music at UConn. That's the last I had heard.
Well, you made a difference.
So
I
we
hope, I hope
definitely-
he sees this and gets a hold of you.
Yeah.
Right, Troop Middle School in New Haven.
Yeah. You know, New Haven does although in inner city schools, they do a pretty good job. They really try. The teachers are excellent here. Anyway, they needed a drum set. And believe it or not, we get at least 2 or 3 drum sets. And we have a tremendous repairman who loves fixing the drums. He doesn't like the charges. We pay him anyway, but he fixed this set up, and we gave it to them, and they love it. Yeah, the teachers love drum sets because they can't ask the Board of Ed for a drum set. They might be able to get a sax out of them, but they'll never get a drum set.
All right, Waterbury Arts Magnet School.
They're all stories. This guy, he had a hard time putting a band together, but he finally got a band. But after school, he wanted to have this rock orchestra. He says, I have a bass guitar, I got a piano player, I got a guitar player, but we don't have any drums. I said, oh, man.
Have we got some drums
we
for
got
you?
drums. This is a pearl set. This set is
Wow.
about $800.
Wow.
And he came, and then he had this kid on the, if you're looking at the picture on the left, he's great. You know, he's got the Fender shirt on. He's ready to go on the 13-week tour with Led Zeppelin.
I think it's terrific. Is this Woodbury, I think?
Yes. I went to school with this man on the right, Bill Geddes. Terrific teacher, wonderful musician. And Bill and I have stayed in contact over the years. We both went to WestCon. And he ultimately wound up teaching in Woodbury. And he knows, and he helps out too. If somebody offers us an instrument in that area, Bill will pick it up and I meet him and we drop off.
I love how you carpool. And
Yeah,
do all this.
yeah. So we gave him this wonderful, this is a euphonium / baritone horn. It's a European style, that's why you see it curved. It's a beautiful, beautiful horn.
And we wrap up with, I guess, a tuba at Worthington Hooker?
Actually, and this is a sousaphone.
Well, see, that I was just going to say that.
Don't be embarrassed because everybody thinks that these are, well, they think tubas are sousaphones and sousaphones
How
are
silly
tubas.
of me. Okay, so what's the story behind this?
This was a school, Worthington Hooker. We had this sousaphone, and it was in a rough shape. Was given to us, but we have this incredible brass repairman, Billy Korzik, and Billy is just, I call him the artiste. He can take something that looks like it's ready for the dump, and in
And
2-3
polish it up?
hours, well, he just takes all he's got tools like you can't imagine, and he makes it look unbelievable. It looks now about 10 times better than when we brought it to Billy.
That's terrific.
But they needed it. And one sousaphone in a band, one low brass or low woodwind instrument makes a huge difference in a band. So they loved it.
Well, speaking of making a difference, Fred, I can't thank you enough to come on, talk about what you're doing for kids in schools across the state of Connecticut.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
hornsforkids.org. If you've got an instrument, get a hold of Fred Rossimondo.
Yeah, I would appreciate it, and we do make it simple. We don't really ask for money. We just go to the website. It's a wonderful website that Lee built, and it's very transparent. You want to donate money, you can do it through PayPal. You want to donate an instrument, you want to ask us a question. And then we have a lot of these pictures up on our website to entice people to say, this is a transparent but well-funded organization that can really help kids. So if we get 100 instruments a year, like I said, I'm nervous right now because I'm looking for October. What are we going to get?
I hope we get you 200, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
And enlightening
This
us.
has been great for us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Made a trivial pursuits when one this in. Who is this girl? Spend all night kissing, and if one was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked to find myself wishing I could find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store of my mind just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we